All right, we are tackling GIF animation and animating our character. We have our sketch. That was our first demo. So we know what our plan is. The next thing we need are our assets. And the first asset I need is the background, the establishing setting. So I'm going to go to my documents. I'm going to open up my digital files. I'm going to go to assignment 1. And I'm actually going to use my JPEG because it's already flattened as one layer. Because I'm going to keep this really pretty simple. I'm not going to worry about texture fills and all of that. I'm going to do some basic stuff. So I'm going to open that JPEG with Photoshop. And now I'm immediately going to figure out what I want for the setting. And to do that, I'm going to make a new layer, and I want my setting to be a perfect square. Let's see, where is that? Right here. But I don't want to crop to that square because I might want to do camera moves and pans and things like that. So I have a new blank layer. I use the rectangular marquee tool. I hold down Shift, and that will allow me to make a perfect square. And I draw that square shape. Okay, so maybe it's about that big. And then while I'm still on the marquee tool, I can kind of move that around and find different framings. And this is like a cinematographer sizing up their shots. So this is going to be one framing that I want. So I'm going to say select inverse and edit fill with white. So that's one scene right there. Another scene I'm going to want is on the other end, but with that same square. So I'll use this selection, I'll use my magic wand tool. I'm on the blank layer. I'm just selecting the empty space. Then I use the rectangular marquee tool and I can move this. And this is called a camera move. So now I can start somewhere else and pan over to my bird, right? Or to my creature. So this is going to be like a move like this, going from there to there. So on this new blank layer, I'm going to select inverse and fill with white. Now I'm doing that so that I don't need to make those selections again randomly. And I like to do this instead of using guides because the guides can get confusing. So at any time I can select those two, but I'm working between those two, right? So the first thing I'm going to animate is just a simple camera move, right? From that scene to this scene, but it all has to happen in the same square. So let's understand animation a little bit. Everything has to do with assets and components. And the first one that I'm going to deal with are the backgrounds. So traditionally, backgrounds are created first. Whether they're for hand-drawn animation or digital animation or flash animation. What you notice about backgrounds is they're eerily devoid of figurative content. And that's how we designed our fantasy landscape. But they're made to have figures populate them. And when a background is long like this, that doesn't mean that this movie is long like this. It means that they will shoot one part of this and then they will pan over and show another part. So you are able to use your full fantasy landscape, if that's one of your components that you want to use, as a panning background. And that's what I'm showing you here. Because camera moves can be an easy way to introduce a character and to get away from a character, to kind of restart the scene. All right. So now I need to build my assets. So the first thing I need is this frame right here as a perfect square. So I'm going to select it out. And then I'm going to duplicate it from the background. So I have a free floating frame there. I'm building my background assets. Then I need its destination. So I have the start and then the finish of this camera move. So I do the same thing with a new layer here. These are called background assets. And then I duplicate it from the background. So now I have these two images. And now here's the tricky part. I need to use that same square and animate all the movements in between those two. So what I'm going to do is turn this destination frame down a little bit so I can see where I'm trying to get to. And then I'm going to make little movements on the background layer. Whoops. Okay, good. I don't know why it undid it for a second. Okay. And using the selector marquee tool, I'm able to move this square, and I can do it any way I want. I can curve down and over. I can move up and down as long as I end in this position. I'm fine, right? So let's see, what do I want to really look at? I think I just want to do a straight sweep. So I'm going to move it down just a little bit, about like that, and then I'm going to hit Command J. See, so now I have this image, all right, so I have now this image, and this image. So I'm going to start stair-stepping down to it, right, with different layers. And that's how you do a camera move. Camera moves are a lot more work than you think. And now that I've kind of explained myself, I shouldn't have to make it take any longer. Okay, so I've got my selection. Now I want to get that selection again, which I can do by selecting around the last thing I did and then selecting inverse. And again, I'm making these copies from the background layer. And I'm showing my destination in low opacity here. So now I'm going to sweep again. Whoops, I'm in the wrong layer, or the wrong tool. I want to be on a selection tool, so I'm just moving the selection box. And I find something else, maybe move a little bit faster, then duplicate it from the background layer, then go back to the background layer, select around where I just was, select inverse. It all sounds very complicated. You don't want to try to copy it step by step. You just want to try to understand the concepts and be able to execute on that. Move it a little bit closer. I'll probably need about 2 camera moves to finish it up. 2 more frames. And you are not required to use camera moves, but you are required to use assets. All right. Keep going. One more and I should be there. Well, maybe two more. So even panning over a small distance can take many frames. Let's see. And you can see why we need the whole work day today just to get this started. So move a little bit faster at the end here. For tiny movements, you can use your arrow keys. And don't make the mistake of trying to make this into kind of feature film quality with 24 frames per second. That just isn't going to look very good. Okay, so now I can turn off my masks. I can turn off my background. I have basically 8 layers that give me my whole camera move. That's what it is. And honestly, I think I want a little bit more. Let's make it a full 10. Because I don't like how abrupt it looks at the end. So I'm going to go with my last layer here. Select around it. Remember, selecting empty space is always 100% accurate. Then select inverse, instead of trying to draw the perfect square each time. And now move that all the way to the edge. Okay, and then duplicate it. So that's my full camera move. Does that take me all the way to the edge? Why am I not seeing it? Huh. I'm baffled. What is going on? Oh, I must have duplicated from the wrong layer. So whenever you're baffled, remember you can always go back in your history. So I moved this selection, I moved it all the way to the edge. Ah, yes, but you see I copied from the wrong layer. So now I want to copy that from the background. Command J. So now I should have that full pan that I want. Good, like that. All right, I am now going to erase the background layer because these are the only background assets I want to be able to use. Erase my clipping masks and save this now as my first asset file. Carl, assign, is this assignment 5? Background assets. LZW as a TIFF is fine or as a PSD is fine. I should probably save it as a PSD just so it opens more easily. even though it will take up